In past interviews, you've talked about your upbringing. Your father was an engineer, mother a dentist, but you wanted to be a cartoonist and ended up in architecture. What made you stay with architecture?
Basically, when I graduated from high school, I knew I wanted to become a graphic novelist, and there was no cartoon academy in Denmark. So the closest fit I could find was the Royal Danish Art Academy of Fine Arts School of Architecture. Had a substantial amount of classic drawing education in the first 2 years. It was really like a classic art school at the time. So I thought maybe I can spend a couple of years getting really good at drawing the background, like essentially buildings and landscapes, and then I can sort of move back into the foreground and really make holistic graphic novels.
But something made you stay.
I just basically fell in love with the background. I mean, actually, even from the first week of architecture school, we went to Barcelona on a study trip, and I got exposed to Gaudí and Miralles, this kind of Catalan expressionism, and you could say in many ways that moving around the Sagrada Familia or on the roofscapes of Casa Batlle or Casa Mila, they're almost like built graphic novels full of stories and different motifs and different characters, and even text written in broken ceramic tiles. So I think this. I just suddenly came back from Barcelona realizing that maybe architecture could be, very exciting, and I sort of swayed off my original trajectory.
And your passion for sustainability? I mean, was this an early interest? I mean, was it an epiphany at some point, or did it gradually evolve?
It was interesting in high school. The last year of high school in Denmark, you have a major, and I had major in political science, and you have to do a kind of thesis of that year within your major, and I chose. It was a very long-winded title, but it was called Environmental Policy at a global, regional, national, local, and individual level. A follow-up on the Rio conference in 1992, because I wrote it in January 1993. So it was like hot off the press. It was the first COP, like United Nations Environmental Conference that was held in Rio. They had just sort of coined the term sustainability and sustainable development in the Gro Harlem Brundtland report,
right?
And they were doing Agenda 21, and basically the world was kind of mobilizing around. At the time, it was the hole in the ozone layer and global warming, and I think everybody was a bit more scared about the hole in the ozone layer because this idea of being fried by death rays.
At the time, yeah.
But very simple legislation against. A Freon and these kind of propellants for spray cans actually meant that the hole in the ozone layer closed up quite quickly, and it turned out that it was the greenhouse effect that was the big problem to tackle. So in that sense, I was quite well versed in. All of the discussions around the global warming and the environment in general. Also, Denmark had a freshwater reform in the 70s, and I did a small project also in political science about the decision-making process that led to the legislation that eventually meant that the streams and creeks in Denmark were lifted from the 70s into the 80s and 90s and are now incredibly clean.
This was a conversation taking place in policy based on evidence in science. But what about the role of design?
In any conflict between art and science, science always stands stronger in a way that you can say like... Maybe one of the reasons that functionalism was such a compelling movement in architecture was because the aesthetics or the art was aligned with the purpose of the building. So it was almost this idea that by making the building even better at what it's designed for, it's also beautiful in the sort of mind and eye of the perspective of functionalism. So in that sense, I also thought it was interesting that if you look at environmental performance, if you look at the energy consumption, the quality of air, all of those things, you can almost align the building design with how it performs in terms of the environment, and you end up having a strong argument as an architect. So in that sense, the more you can include ways in which the building can perform, and that includes the environmental performance of the building, you end up standing stronger when you have to argue, why is it a good idea to do this? Why is it worth the time and energy and money we spend on it?